Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the CMSnetwork.com, and the CMS Rumble page. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Without further ado, let me bring on one of the ugliest podcasters in the industry. Definitely has a face for radio, but what the hell? Mr. Brian Hendrickson, how's it going, man?
Oh, hi, John. I was about to say what's going on with your hair, but last time we went down that road.
Look, it looks fine, okay? I'm in the middle of the grow out. Like, who cares?
Hang on, I actually have a Webster sitting around here somewhere. I'm pretty sure
Shut
if I look
the
up
fuck
fine
up.
in that dictionary.
Shut the fuck up, Jesus.
Oh man,
Then we're off and running.
we are. We're excited, dude. This is an exciting time for you, man. This is like May the 4th is coming. You're a big Star Wars nerd.
Yep.
Did you do your Phantom Menace marathon yet, or no?
That's tomorrow. So
Okay.
AJ and I, for the Nerf Herder Council's Patreon, we actually did commentary on it. So that'll be on our Patreon page here pretty soon once AJ does the upload. But yeah, I'm going tomorrow at 12:10 p.m. with AJ. Strongsville Cinemark. We're literally the only two people that have bought tickets. It's
hard
like,
to believe.
I know, man. It's like, but dude, you know what? It's gonna be kind of cool. Like, it's like your own private screening of Star Wars. And then I've got tickets with my wife at 6:45 tomorrow night at a Cinemark closer to home.
Nice.
But she's thinking about skipping it to watch the Cleveland Cavaliers get blown out by 35 points to the Orlando Magic in Game 6 of their first round Eastern Conference NBA playoff series. So we'll see what happens.
Now, do you get a tub of popcorn each time? Because I think I would have to. I mean, that's the only reason half the reason I even go to movies for the popcorn.
Well, they're selling it's like a commemorative 25th anniversary, like this kick-ass like graphic popcorn tub, and I think you get free refills with it, which is cool because like my wife's like, okay, you don't need that, and I'm just like, okay, but if I buy it once, like then when I go the second time, I can get free popcorn.
Right.
So yeah, so I think I'm gonna do that. But yeah,
That's
either way,
awesome.
it'll be fun. And I'm playing a gig in Indiana at the Hollywood Casino in Lawrenceburg on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
And it's one of those stages where it's elevated and behind the bar. It's actually a pretty big stage too. And they're actually for Star Wars Day on Saturday, they're playing episode 4. We play at 8:30. They're playing episode 4 from 3 to 5. So I'm actually going out there early to watch another
Nice.
Star Wars movie. So it's
Nice.
as nerdy as it gets. But so yeah, so we have a good topic on hand here tonight. We kind of pivoted at the last second when this was released. You had forwarded this to me, and Loudwire magazine website, whatever you want to call it, they released a top albums list, but it is only the albums of the big 4 of prog metal, that being Opeth, Between the Buried and Me, Queensryche, and obviously Dream Theater. And it's all of their studio releases, which totals up to 54 records, and they ranked them. And we were like, man, we kind of gotta get into this. So, we figured that we would dig into this a little bit, see what we agree with, see what we don't. And we also decided to get a very, very good friend onto the show. He's been in the chat a few times, but we've never had him on live. And we've known him for years and years, man. God, I think I've known him, 22, 23 years now, or something longer than you in any case.
Yep.
So he is our very good friend, Mr. Bob Hurd. What's up, man? How's it going?
Hey guys. Hey, thanks for having me. Been watching you guys a while and thought I would jump in and have some fun. So thanks for having me.
You're going to class up the show. What are you doing?
Try.
Bob is a changed man since you last saw him, John. He can no longer mark that box that says single when you're doing your tax returns at the end of the year.
Nice.
He's officially a married man.
Well, they say second time's a charm, right? So yes, I just made that up. So
oh, that's right. Never mind. I forgot. I totally forgot this was number 2.
Yeah.
How did you forget that? I knew that as soon as you mentioned it.
I don't know.
He's going down that road.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that, man. That's very, very cool. I saw that on Facebook. It looked great.
Appreciate it.
Well, not only that, he is an expert on. He's the only expert we know on the Swedish metal band that rhymes with Schmopeth. So, Bob he's going to serve as our resident Opeth expert because I have a very limited knowledge and John has a 0.
Yeah.
So,
I've listened to them in passing, and I don't think I've heard any Between the Buried and Me. So, those we might not dig into as much because that's not our area, but obviously we know plenty about Queensryche and obviously Dream Theater.
Well, one interesting note. This showed up on Portnoy's page, and he was surprised they didn't have Fates Warning and Tool as part of the Big Four. So I don't know who he would have kicked out. I kind of on the fence on Queensryche as far as being a prog metal band. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's hard. You can, but they definitely ride that line between rock and metal. I think if you're compared to the other bands you would think of. So
yeah, definitely. This guy who wrote this article definitely. This is his opinion. It's not like the thrash Big Four where it's pretty well universally Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, and Slayer. This one is his opinion. So I can see it where, first you have to settle on what Big Four you want. This just happens to be his,
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, but I completely agree with you where I think that there's wiggle room here to have some other, selections. So it'd be interesting to see what the chat thinks about that. If they would replace somebody with, I mean, I think obviously Dream Theater, Opeth is definitely a good choice. I think Between the Buried and Me. I think Queensryche might be the outlier. So it's like, who do you put in there besides them?
Yeah, I think Fates Warning I would consider a little more prog metal, but that's just me.
See, I was wondering, okay, it's like if you're gonna say Fates Warning, would you say Symphony X then?
That's the slippery slope you kind of start going
down.
That's
what I'm saying.
I mean, they're probably more prog than Fates Warning.
Okay. Well, and they're definitely more metal than Queensryche.
Yes.
So,
yep.
All right.
So let's put Symphony X in.
Yeah, screw it. We're taking out the Queensryche records and putting in Symphony X.
That's right.
All right. So we're going to start at the bottom of this list here. And we're going to go and, we're going to touch on, we've got 54 albums to get through. So we're not going to, deep dive or anything like that. So we'll just
no more than 10 minutes per album, I'd say. Max.
Oh my God, that's funny. So just so we're clear, the guy does break it down as to how many records each band has. Queensryche has 16. They Dream Theater has 15. Opeth have 13, and Between the Buried and Me have 10. Excuse me. So,
and full disclosure, this is all the Latore albums too. So
yes. Yeah, it's funny because it says Queensryche have 16, including 2013's Frequency Unknown. So they're basically calling that first Jeff Tate record an official. Where do you guys stand on that? I don't know if I would count that. That is definitely one of those. I think that's a Jeff Tate solo record. Where do you guys stand?
Well, it's still under the moniker Queensryche, though, right?
It is, but I mean, do you count it?
I always did, but I'm not a huge Queensryche fan, other than their big stuff that I think both of you probably, Empire and Mind Crime. I don't go too much past that other than the live hits, so I always thought it was.
Yeah, to me, it's just like knowing that it's just Tate, kind of like taking over the name. I'm like, I mean, it's easy to rank the thing, that's for sure. But
I mean,
right.
if it's mostly him doing everything, which I guess I didn't realize, then I would probably agree.
Yeah,
It's not to the degree that I still think the Astonishing is a a Jordan and Petrucci album. It's not to that degree, but yeah, if he truly did all that, then it probably is a little weird. But his name's still on there. I mean, Black Sabbath's name is on that atrocity called Forbidden, and there's nothing.
Well, that's
it should be forbidden, right?
Right.
It's so bad.
Well, I mean, that's perfect. By the way, speaking of Petrucci and Rudis, one quick point, and then we'll get started here. But are you as excited as I am to hear the new Dream Theater record, considering that John Petrucci described his guitar tone as a T-Rex made out of chocolate cake lit on fire? I was like, okay.
I have no idea what that means, but sure.
I don't. Yeah, but the thing I do find interesting is that they contacted Doug Oberkircher, which I always thought was Oberkircher, so I learned that. But they got all of the old Neve preamps that they used for like Images and Words and Awake and stuff, like his original gear, and combined it with his current stuff. And apparently he says it's like just killer. So that'll be cool. So JG3 says, Queensryche, by the way, good to see you, man. He says, Queensryche is borderline prog metal. Fate's Warning definitely should be a part of it. However, if you kick Queensryche out, then you miss out on prog metal classics such as FU and Dedicated to Chaos. Something tells me we'll be discussing those albums very soon. Yeah, Chastity, good question. If it's a Queensryche solo album, in air quotes, can we count Liquid Tension Experiment for Dream Theater? Yeah, it does walk that line, doesn't it? All righty, so let's get started with number 54. So at big number 54, this is written by, let's see, who's the author of this one? I can't see.
Jordan Blum.
Jordan Blum, or Bloom, yeah. Sorry if we're mispronouncing it. Okay, so he has it number 54. There you go, JG. The worst of the 54 records, Dedicated to Chaos. Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely wasn't dedicated to making a good album. Let's put it that way.
No. That's I have never gotten through this record. I think I've, it's basically like Saint Anger. I skimmed it and was like, absolutely not. And it's I mean, the after Promised Land, Bob, I know you said, you're not a huge Queensryche fan, but Brian, I know you and I think we can agree that after Promised Land, they just got weird and shitty, and it was pretty much all trash until Latore joined the band. So
yeah, I'll go along with that for the most part.
Yeah. So all right, we can move past that because it sucks. Speaking of sucking, JG3 must have read this list. At number 53, the second worst of the 54 records, Frequency Unknown. Yeah, it was yeah. FU, that's good. It's got the fist on the cover with the FU rings and shit.
Which is so dumb, like just such a ruination of like, you know what I mean? So like childish, I guess is the word I'm thinking of.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, yeah, it says he was trying to serve up an overt fuck you to his former bandmates. Of course, he needed to deliver a solid album for his tell-off to work, which he certainly didn't do. That's not to say that the record is totally horrible. It's not. Yeah, it is. It's a piece of shit. So I think
just the idea of like a band like Queensryche or just Jeff Tate can make an album like that. It just doesn't make any it doesn't make any sense. That's not what they're known for. It's not a freaking punk band.
Well, it's one of those things that bands do where it's like, well, we always want to reinvent ourselves. We want to change, and it's like, you can't take advantage of fans. At some point, you cross that line of, the fans will follow you anywhere into, okay, well, not if you put out shit. So, Giovanni Palaya, great to see you, man. He says, I think to be considered, a band's discography should be at least 95% progressive. So Queensryche and Between the Buried and Me are out, and Fate's Warning and Symphony X are in my opinion. I think that carries a lot of water. I think that's a good way to look at it personally. So
What you're saying is we're going to be making another list, another episode, and we're going to be putting some new bands in there.
You're not going to be getting me to rank 54 different damn albums. That's for sure. We already have to rank 15 of them later on this show, and that's going to be a bitch in and of itself. So I'm not doing 54. All right, let's get to the first controversy of the night. This Jordan Blum guy, or Blum, I'm going to say Bloom because he blew it. At number 52, the third worst of the big four of prog metal, his big four, the third worst of the 54 records, 1989's Dream Theater debut, When Dream and Day Unite. This dude is on drugs. Fuck this guy. Are you familiar with this record at all, Bob?
Yeah, I'm way more familiar with Dream Theater than I am Queensryche, so I can say that I do think this is Dream Theater's weakest album, but I don't know that I'd put it this low with all the other garbage I know that's coming.
Right?
So,
well, Brian, I mean, you have a newfound respect for this album since we, talked about it on the show and you've listened to it more. So, do you think this deserves to be ranked like only above Frequency Unknown and Dedicated to Chaos?
I mean, for God's sakes, Q2K and Tribe are still coming,
Yeah, that was exactly my thought.
So I don't know. I mean, whenever we do get around to ranking the records, I don't think it'd be any shock to anyone that, well, there's a slight chance you would have. There's one I can think you might have a lower when it comes to Dream Theater, but I would probably put it as their weakest without giving away all of our Dream Theater rankings.
Yeah, I'm not giving away my rankings,
but yeah, I mean, there's definitely worse stuff coming, and that's not just because we're a Dream Theater show.
Yeah, I was surprised to see this there. Even not knowing Opeth and Between the Buried and Me, I mean, I have to assume that people who know of these four bands would put probably all of the Queensryche crap right at the bottom, like the mid 90s to up to Latori. All of those records I think could easily occupy the bottom. Because I think it's the reason for that is because since they are more straightforward, they're not as progressive as the other bands. It's easier for them to write a shit song. Because at least with the other bands, you could say, oh, well, they're trying to write something weird. They're trying to be creative. Whereas with Queensryche, it's like, oh, we're going to be a grunge band now. And you're like, what the fuck is that? like no one wants Here in the Now Frontier. Give me Empire. What the hell?
I mean, we're on clear record as and I know Bob's not as much of a fan, but he obviously likes the best stuff of theirs, which is cool. But it's like, this is not. There's that period where it's not Queensryche,
Yeah.
I mean, and I know people can say, well, it's not Queensryche now because it's just Eddie and Michael, but Todd Latorre has brought such a flavor of what made Tate amazing and what made the original lineup amazing that you can't tell the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, dude, sorry to cut you off, man.
No, it's fine.
I turned my best friend Andy onto Digital Noise Alliance, and we were talking about it about a month ago, and I asked him if he was going to the Queensryche show up here. He's like, nah. It's like, is that new singer any good? I'm like, dude, he's amazing. And I told him, but he's a huge fan of the older stuff. He basically like you, Bob. He's a big fan of the main hit records. And then, after that, he's like, okay, he heard a couple and he's like, they're trash. I stopped listening. Man, I talked to him a couple days ago, and he's like, dude, you weren't kidding about that new Queensryche record. That is kick ass. So you're right. I mean, Latorre really brings it back, like that, the spirit and the energy and the sound of the stuff that people dig.
You know what's annoying though, and this is no rip on your buddy. It's like Latorre's been in the band for 11 years now.
Well, but I mean, you have to remember though, like people like us, like the three of us, like we read Blabbermouth. Like we have friends that do this kind of thing for a living.
I get it. I understand it happens, but it just annoys me. It's like, if the guy didn't join 2 years ago, you know what I mean? There was a chance to check this guy out. You know what I mean? I understand it. Everyone's, time is limited and some people process music totally differently, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. It's just weird because the dude has been in the band 11 years now.
Dude, there's still people that go to Journey shows and go, "Hey, wait, where's Steve Perry?" I mean, they don't pay attention. They don't know. I mean, dude, and we'll move on, but like that is exactly why like Dokken will still draw people and get paid. Jack Russell will still draw people and get paid. Foreigner, like, I mean, Foreigner, I guess, is not a good example. I mean, it's not. I mean, Mick Jones comes out every once in a while.
They have a really good singer. So
yeah,
it's not a good example.
But like Dokken and these 80s bands that blow, people still go out because they pay no attention to the fact that for the last decade, these bands have sounded like warmed over garbage. They don't know. So these places keep booking them and they keep selling tickets. And then people show up and go, what the shit did I pay for? Yeah. So I mean, that's how this stuff happens, man. So yeah, I completely disagree with this. I mean, when Dream and Day unite, first of all, there are worse Dream Theater records. And I love all the Dream Theater stuff, but there are worse Dream Theater records, and there are definitely worse albums on this list. For example, number 51, Queensryche's American Soldier. You mean to tell me that this nitwit would rather listen to American Soldier than When Dream and Day Unite?
I've been on record before that I don't mind this record. At least I understand what they were going for, and I think it's kind of a cool tribute thing. So I do appreciate that aspect of it. I don't think the music is anywhere near as bad as some of the other stuff. You're talking about not counting Frequency Unknown. I almost don't count this because this is such a, even if you don't like the music, it is a true labor of love, and it's sort of dedicated to people that are in the services, and I can totally appreciate that. And I like the fact that, certain proceeds of this or whatever went towards that. So, JG3, I'm going to say I actually kind of dig American Soldier. Yeah. I think this album probably gets a worse rap than it deserves. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as those others, but that's just me.
Have you ever even listened to this record, Bob?
No, I don't think I even knew it existed, to be honest with you.
This is one of the ones I skipped. Eventually, there's a period of Queensryche I'm like, yeah, no, I don't.
I mean, it doesn't really sound anything like Queensryche, but it also doesn't sound as bad as the others. So I don't know. It's just a cool. The guy just wanted to do an album which is a tribute to anyone who ever served as an American. I just think that's cool. That's just me.
I mean, the concept is great, but even the guy's description of the record says as much. Like, American Soldier deserves more acclaim for its fresh thematic approach and compassionate representations than it does for the quality of its content.
Yeah, I mean that's probably going to be happening. That's probably going to happen on anything where you try to sort of go this big or this deep into something, and that's okay.
Yeah,
we don't have to say any more about it. It's American Soldier.
Yeah, right. All right, so at number 50, we have Between the Buried and Me, 2002. Self-titled debut. I don't know anything about this, so I will fully. Do you guys know anything about it?
What I know about it is what I saw or what I listened to earlier today. So maybe 20 minutes of it.
Okay.
So what it sounds like is that Between the Buried and Me were more like a metalcore / death metal band when they first started. It wasn't very progressive early on.
Yeah.
So this is their debut album. Very, very heavy, growly. Not a whole lot of progressiveness in this. That comes a few later, but this is a good spot for this. It seems they're early. They're just learning. It seems so.
I just wonder if it's bad so much as like just not what they would like if Dream Theater started out as a radio rock band and then progressed, would they put like would they put their debut album down at say like number, I don't know, 50, 52 or oh wait, that already happened.
Well, yeah. The trajectories are pretty, like I think Ziri said in the comments. Opeth we'll talk about very shortly here too. Totally different band, and I think Between the Buried and Me, same thing.
Okay,
just totally different bands than what they become a couple albums down the line. So we'll see that.
Okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, JG3 is backing up. It says Between the Buried and Me did not start out as a prog metal band very much. Okay. All right, moving on to number 49. We have our second appearance of Dream Theater, that being 2013's self-titled record Dream Theater. Yeah, I'll let you guys talk about this one. I think to rate this one below a bunch of Queensryche records that are coming up is pretty much sacrilege, because Queensryche was trying to be some other completely different entity, whereas Dream Theater is just being Dream Theater. And I know that having read through the Dream Theater descriptions on this, the guy basically is like saying that there's some Dream Theater albums on here that are just like run of the mill. It's just not interesting. It's just by the numbers and safe Dream Theater. I'm like, yeah, but it's still Dream Theater. You know what I mean? Like they didn't go, okay, well, we're going to be an Oompa band. Like, hey, check this out. Here's our tribute to, big band era 1940s shit. Like, no, they're Dream Theater.
Well, did you notice the guy does say something about your least favorite Epic tune that I guess you probably can't argue too much?
Yeah, I would just like everybody to know that as much as look at this. Matt Wardlaw, thanks for the warning. Why don't you go grow hair? You're just jealous because I've got these flowing locks that keep getting longer and longer, and you have to wear a hat everywhere so you don't blind people. So there you go.
Yeah, I've been sitting here for 26 minutes going how jealous I am of your hair.
Look, man, it's not as bad as it was before. Now shut up. So, yeah, I would just like everyone to know that when I got crucified for saying that Illumination Theory is by far my least favorite of their epics, this guy says, clocking in at just about 22 minutes in length, closer Illumination Theory is by far the quintet's most disposable suite as well. And then he says, Dream Theater is basically what would happen if an AI made a Dream Theater album.
I don't know that I totally disagree with that very last statement. That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, I understand what I guess I can't really argue with him saying it's like safe. I mean, what are your thoughts on the self-titled record, Bob? Like, do you listen to it very much? Do you like it, or?
No, it's not one that I go back to hardly at all. It's got a few tunes. I like The Looking Glass. Enemy Inside is pretty good.
Yeah,
but I don't go back to this one a whole lot. I kind of like Queensryche. Like, I stay in the sweet spot of the earlier years. But
okay.
I have a few that I do like later on, but this one is not one of them.
Okay. And Brian, what about you? I mean, we haven't done our rankings, but we have done a deep dive, and I think you like this record more than I do.
I like the songs, but we've talked about the production, and I think that's what he's saying is the production on this. I don't know. There's something very automated, AI computer spit this out and made it sound too perfect and clean on the drums, and the guitars are a little too awash in chorus and verb and things like that. I understand where he's coming from with that. It's almost a little too polished, I guess, is the for lack of a better word. But I, like Bob said, I love, it's probably the same song, Looking Glass. I absolutely still love that one part in the middle of Illumination Theory. I don't hate it as much anymore as you do, or as much as I did in the beginning. But it's got like Along for the Ride too, which is a great song. But the production of it feels like a computer just sort of spit this out and generated it, and that's just feels a little stale.
It definitely doesn't have rough edges. There's no bite to it. It's kind
that's
of
a good
like,
word. Bite. That's a good word.
It's the guitars aren't crunching like usual. There's not really. I mean, we talked about it in our deep dive. The snare drum on this record, it sounds like the snare was off, and that's just crazy to me. So, JG3 agrees with me. He says a bit harsh, but Illumination Theory is to me definitely the weakest epic track. And Kale is telling me that we changed the time of the show without warning. It's always at 7:30, Kale. It has never changed.
Actually, we haven't started the show yet, Kale.
Yeah, you're dreaming. You're asleep.
You're not watching us right now.
You're asleep. It's a pre-record. All right. So moving on to number 48, we have Queensryche 1999's Q2K. Yeah, I remember listening to this, or was it Tribe? One of those two, like the very last song on the record, it sounded to me like classic Queensryche, and the rest was like, so Yeah, very forgettable. I don't go back and listen to any of this stuff, which is sad.
Meanwhile, coming in at number 47.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
there's really, yeah. I mean, let's just move on. It's like we said, it's the stuff that's kind of blah, and I don't know. Maybe there's some gems in there. I wouldn't be opposed to going in and checking some of this out and seeing if I can find anything, but I'm not going to do it right now.
Yeah, no, it's ugh. Yeah, this is known as the Kelly Gray album. At least, it's the only one to have him as he was the producer, and then he ended up being in the band, which was yeah. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, moving on to number 47, Between the Buried and Me, The Silent Circus 2003, which is labeled as a big improvement over its predecessor.
Yeah, I would still say copy and paste from the last one. This is their second album, so same as before. They haven't found themselves yet. It's not quite there.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because this guy says The Silent Circus is one of the best metalcore albums of all time and a clearer sign of where the band would go with Colors and beyond. So interesting.
That's a bold statement. Best metalcore albums of all time.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, it's interesting because he's like, yeah, it's one of the best metalcore albums of all time, but it's one of the worst prog metal records of all time. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's one of the worst out of this ranking, let's say.
Yeah, these four bands, yeah.
Right. JG3 says it. So The Silent Circus is a good album. It's not a prog album.
Agreed.
Yeah, all right.
You know what's funny is now that it's technically not homework, I'll actually probably go back and listen to this band.
Right.
I just didn't want to do any homework. Well, plus we came up with this like literally
what it was like yesterday.
Yeah, like 36. Well, I think day before, 36 hours ago. So I'm like, Bob's like, "Are you going to check them out?" And I'm like, "No."
I knew that if we checked it out, that it would like absolutely just derail it because we'd be talking about every record. Like, welcome to an 8-hour episode.
So I'm like, well, Bob volunteered to check it out, and he's making like literally triple the pay that we are for this episode. So
I'm trying to earn my money.
Yeah.
Working hard for my money.
Show prep. What is show prep? All right. So moving on to number 46. Now Bob is in his element.
Here we are.
It is Opeth with 1995's Orchid. So this is their debut, correct?
Yeah, this is their very first one. It is black metal. It's
okay.
The guitars are still pretty cool. They kind of tell you what kind of guitar player that Michael is, but it's black metal. It's all harsh vocals. It's long songs. It's not really a progressive album at all. It's black metal. So it belongs here.
So is it a bad album?
No,
or is it just
no, it's not bad. Like there's no bad Opeth albums. Like for me, and they're my favorite band. So
okay.
For that, they're all good. But this is probably the second worst one for my personal opinion. And it's just it's so raw. The production's really bad on it. It just sounds like dirty and grimy. It's black metal. It's not something that I would normally listen to. Obviously I went backward to listen to it after listening to their other stuff, but it's not a bad album. It's got a lot of great guitar work. It's not my thing. I don't listen to anything like that, other than Opeth.
Yeah, I don't. Haven't they gotten like lighter / weirder on the last couple of records, if I remember hearing correctly?
Yeah, they're basically three different bands, and
okay.
So their first 2 to 3 records is all like this. They're all real black metal, getting a little bit more progressive each one. Then they have their middle section, which is their probably most popular, where it's progressive metal with a lot of different things that they add in, like a little jazz here and there. They add keyboards later on, and then after that, Michael, the songwriter, the singer, the guitar player, he basically said, I don't want to growl anymore. So the last 4 albums are just all singing, and they're more rock. They're progressive rock than metal. So they're basically 3 different bands. So you'll kind of get me saying A, B, and C. This is the A Opeth. They're just early on. It's real dark. just a lot of screaming.
Okay.
And the guitars are still sweet. I mean, if you're really into just, it sounds like 10-minute solos. I mean, this might be for you. So
Okay. Yeah, Kale says he is not into Opeth. And JG3 would like to correct you. Said it's not Michael. It's me, Kyle.
all right.
Chastity. She says
Yes.
Bob thinks of Opeth like pizza. Even if it's bad, it's good.
That is so true. It's Opeth on its worst. And again, probably like Dream Theater with you guys. Like when I want to listen to a horrible album, this is what I put on it. It's so amazing.
Yeah, dude,
That's
sweet.
awesome.
That's me, Van Halen and Dream Theater for me. I'm like, yep, let's go.
Yep.
You know. So, all right. So moving on to number 45, we have. Oh God, I wish this didn't exist. What a nut kick to the legacy this is. Number 45 is Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime 2. You want to talk about the opposite of Mindcrime 1? This would be it. It's not, the songs aren't good, the lyrics aren't good, the story isn't good. I mean, the production isn't great, even though they busted out the same amps and guitars they used for the original record.
No, the production is horrible, man.
Yeah.
It's so. I have an idea for an episode, and maybe we'll talk about it off air. But it's the theme is something like you just kind of had a bad feeling when something was announced that some band was going to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And like we each pick like Bob could come on this too. We each pick like 3 or 5, and like we just kind of knew when they were going to do this. You kind of get excited, but you're something in the back of your. Kale says, "Wasn't Dio on this album?" Yeah, he was, but it just Dio and Queensryche, they don't mix. I'm sorry. I absolutely love Dio. I think he's one of the greatest. I still think he's insanely underrated because he never really got any love from the quote mainstream, you know, the way that maybe the hair metal bands did. You know what I mean? It's so extremely talented, but anyway, it's just like you just can't go out and try to do something like this. It's just too forced, and this is what happens.
Yes, forced is the best way to describe it. I mean, the first one was such lightning in a bottle in every respect. Like you had everything firing on all cylinders. Like the story was great. You know, the concept at the time was great. You know, the production was awesome. The songs were fabulous. I mean, that record is basically a perfect album. So just leave it alone.
Well, is DeGarmo gone at this point? I can never remember when.
Yeah,
he left.
his last record was Here in the Now Frontier.
Okay, so that's a big, huge, because if DeGarmo was in the band, he would have basically said, "Look, guys, we can't do this." I guarantee, I guarantee you, he would have put his foot down because I think he's so instrumental into the original Mindcrime. You know?
Yeah, I mean, Bob, what do you think about this? I mean, it's so. Is it another one you don't get like never listen to? You're like F this.
I listened to it when it first came out because you know it gave the name recognition, like Mindcrime 2, you know.
Yeah.
But no, this is overrated. It shouldn't be 45. This one actually I think is one of the worst. I don't know how this got so high, to be honest.
I don't either. I would if this guy was taking interviews, man, I would love to like pick his brain, be like, dude, because okay, like, and the reason being, when I've had to do like movie rankings on my nerd show, like we ranked all the Star Wars movies, obviously, but we ranked like the 23 movies in the Infinity Saga for Marvel, right? And we're gonna rank, you know, the albums here on our show, the Dream Theater records, and it comes to a point where, in order to get your ranking, you get your initial ranking, and then you start questioning to you know get it, you know, straight. You go, okay, you look at two albums or 2 movies, you go, okay, if I had to sit down and watch one of these right now, which one would I prefer watching? And then you reorder it based on that. So I would love to ask this guy, like, are you really telling me that you would rather listen to Operation Mindcrime 2 instead of When Dream and Day Unite? Or, you know,
I'll tell you
one of
what
the other
it
records?
is. I'll tell you what it is. It's a sense of optimism that I still to this day, every once in a while, let me put on Saint Anger. Maybe I was wrong the 400 times before, That's what it is. There's still like a sense of hope and a sense of optimism that maybe this isn't as bad as I think it is because it's got the word mind crime in it. That's what it is. It's sort of an unconscious thing that your mind does.
But then as soon as it starts, I mean, dude, even that like voiceover at the beginning when he's getting out of jail is cheesy. Like the voiceovers in the original were cool.
I know. I trust me. I get it.
Yesterday, I just remember doing what they told me. You're like, ooh, that's creepy. This guy's like, I'm getting out of jail. Y'all have fun. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what? Oh my God. Like, I mean, it was ruined immediately. I mean, I was so put off immediately that I was like, I don't even want to.
Well, it's hilarious because did you actually buy the CD?
Oh, hell no.
Okay. So I think I'm trying to remember, did I buy it or did I borrow it from somebody? And you're like, man, there's a 12-page booklet with all the lyrics, and like they go all out in this, and then you're just like, oh my God, this is awful. It's a travesty.
Yeah. See, JG3 nailed it. You're a free man, convict.
Yeah,
like,
convict, that was the word.
Oh, so bad. Oh my God.
But yeah, I still think it's maybe there's a chance this isn't as bad as I thought it was. I don't know. You got to rank a bunch of horrible Queensryche albums, so they're all going to go somewhere.
No. Well, speaking of horrible, here comes a horrible opinion at number 44. This guy has Dream Theater's 2019 release, Distance Over Time. This was the first one that I really, and I'm going to tell you why. The next record at 43 is Queensryche's Tribe. Dude, that is like being, you go to a steak restaurant, and on one plate, you've got a steaming pile of shit. And on the other, you've got a beautiful filet mignon. And you go, man, I'm going to dig into this pile of shit. Like you're so wrong on this. It's not even funny. Distance Over Time to me may be Dream Theater's most underrated album. It deserves to be much higher on the list.
I'll tell you this. The entire reason we have this episode is because when I got to this point and I saw this album here, and then I saw what it says. Distance Over Time is effectively Dream Theater 2.0.
Yeah.
So in other words, So in other words, they're saying that I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. None. There is no similarity. The production is totally different. The songs are way better. The lyrics are way better. The performances are better. If you want to call out something like Paralyzed, I can understand that. But calling out Barstool Warrior, you're on crack.
Yeah, he dogs Barstool Warrior.
Right.
Paralyzed and like I thought Paralyzed was cool because it's shortened to the point. It's heavy and it's got a great melody. It's like, man, it's just
he does give some props to your favorite song of no, wait, it's not on there, is it? Fall Into the Light. No, yeah, Out of Reach.
Oh yeah.
Well, he calls that sort of more, what does he say, commonplace, but
at least he catchy and affecting.
Yeah, but he puts that What's In There, which we love, and S2N, which is kind of that seems to be like a podcast. People like they love that song, like their podcast listeners and followers. They love that song. I mean, I like it too, but they like it more than me even.
Dude, the chat is like they agree with us. Chastity Crawley said, "I'm telling you, the author was high." JG3 says, "Whoa," throws tomatoes. And Kale says, "No, fuck you." Chastity wants to know if she can kick him. Yes, yeah, for that one you can. I will allow that. We can have fan on fan hate for this opinion.
Now this is a newer one, Bob. Are you cool with this album or?
I'd probably listen to it once. I like it. I haven't really had a chance to get into it a whole lot. So
Brian and I are big fans of this. I would highly recommend it. The only downside of this album to me is that for some reason the mix is quiet. This is the one album you got to crank to get to the volume of the other albums. Okay. Other than that, I think this record sounds great. The songs are great. So, Kale, wait, kick me or kick the Nugget who wrote this list? Kick the Nugget, Kale. She's definitely everybody's in agreement that this is a ridiculous placement for this. So, as I mentioned, number 43 is Queensryche's Tribe. Do we even need to? No.
No, I guess I didn't realize DeGarmo returned on this. So it almost makes me want to go, okay, let's listen to a song that he was on and see if it's as bad as everything else.
No. It's shit. And at number 42, speaking of shit, Queensryche's Here in the Now Frontier. I still to this day want to know why they thought that musical direction was a good idea. I understand that, like, you know, times are changing and they were not as cool as they were, but it's such a left field turn. I mean, I love Promised Land, for example, but even I think they were really asking a lot of their fans with that record. That's basically like if you took Empire and made it weird. And Ziri, god damn it, says, I love Dirty Window. Get out of here with that Saint Anger shit. Damn you.
You know, I don't mind this. The first half of this I think is okay. It gets pretty rough towards the back, but I mean for where they have it placed in this list, if you throw out the Dream Theater albums, this is probably correct, but obviously this is, you know, I mean, the fact that this is ahead of Distance Over Time, we know is completely insane.
Yeah, and like not to be like, you know, punny here, but this record is just too jarring, you know. I mean, I know it's got a bunch of jars of ears on the cover, but it's just no, like what in Christ's name were you thinking?
It was a sign of the times that grunge was dying, and they jumped on right then when it was dying.
See, I like the Sign of the Times song. I don't think it's bad. But.
Look, all I want is for them to go back to the previous See, Bob, don't do it.
All right.
Especially Hendrickson. He'll be doing that all goddamn night. He's going to be over there looking up track listings for the rest of the show doing this. So.
Oh, yeah, but full disclosure, man, you can't say I don't want to do a pun and then explain it. You just got to do your pun.
Well, but I had to explain it because it's a visual thing.
Is it so bad?
Well, it is bad, and some people, you know, might not. Speaking of bad again, I think, well, I don't know. See, it's almost like, you know what, dude? We should do our rankings show with the next one because we're kind of starting it now. So why don't in 2 weeks we do our album rankings? Because this is kind of like getting into that, you know.
Yeah, we're almost forced to do it now.
I know. All right. So at number 41, we have Dream Theater's last Mangini release, A View from the Top of the World. See, I wish I knew more about some of this Opeth stuff and Between the Buried and Me stuff to see if it's really.
I don't know that I have a huge problem with where they put this. Let's say you're a medium fan, minimum of all four bands, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this is completely insane putting this here. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't love this album at all. This one is going to be probably right down by their first record with me.
Okay.
This one just didn't really hit me at all. I don't know if it's just long, like meandering, but you know, it's not one of my favorites. So I don't mind it here. It seems like a good spot for it, but
I like it more than you do, but I think I can agree with you guys that putting it down here, I think would probably work. This album is so weird for me because it's, you know, I mean, I enjoy it more and more as I listen to it, but it still hasn't like completely got its hooks into me. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I like this, but then I don't go back to it like I do the other records. You know, which is weird because there's some stuff on here I really, really enjoy, but it's, you know, it's very unique in their catalog for me personally. For that reason, it's just there.
There's Discuss Metal Joe. He needs to be the Between the Buried and Me expert for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's going to be weird about this Top of the World album is I wasn't sure I like it, then I loved it, then I wasn't sure, then I liked it, and now I'm kind of on the fence again, you know? I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying when we get to our rankings, I don't know.
I think what it is there's not it's kind of middle of the road in terms of the songs. You don't have, I think, a lot of those, like when you think about songs like Dark Eternal Night, you're thinking of the that crazy, you're like, whoa, that crazy middle part. And there's like maybe one of those on View from the Top of the World. Like it really kind of, it doesn't have all that craziness.
I don't know that the courses in general, other than Transcending Time, are as strong. Maybe too. I don't know.
I like that. Well, see, and I like the choruses though, but
I'm not saying I dislike them. I just don't know if they're, sometimes a course is just a course. You know what I mean?
Marcio Santetti, sorry, is it Marcio or Marcio? Marcio Santetti, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. If I'm mispronouncing your name, please let me know. Do you prefer A View from the Top of the World over Distance Over Time? I personally do not. I would take Distance Over Time. I think all of us are in agreement with that, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah, so we are bigger fans of Distance Over Time, I think.
I would say any Dream Theater survey that puts that out there, it's probably not going to be close.
Right. All right. Marcio said, all right, there we go. I got it. Okay. Marcio Santet. I don't know what the hell I was like doing at first. I'm sorry, man, but I'm glad I got it correct. I hate mispronouncing people's names if I can avoid it. All right. Let's kind of speed through a few here, but not this one. Number 40 is Opeth's 1996 release, Morning Rise. You are up, Bob Hurd.
Yeah, this is my least favorite Opeth record. This one it's almost exactly like the first one. A little bit better production, but it's 5 songs, long songs. They have a 20-minute like epic, their longest song that they've ever done. It just meanders on and on and on and on and on. And I personally do not like the black metal Opeth version A before they found themselves. So not a whole lot to say about Morning Rise. It's my least favorite Opeth record.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar. So we will move on to number 39, The Astonishing. I love this album. I love it. I absolutely love it. But I can't argue with them putting it here, I suppose.
I'm pretty shocked it's not lower, to be honest.
I thought it would be too. I had the exact same thought.
I mean, we said 54, so this is 14 in. I don't know. I figured at least probably a minimum of 5 to 6 sooner. Yeah. I mean, any rational Dream Theater fan, and I know you love The Astonishing, but you would have to admit that most likely, okay, come on. I mean, this is going to be way before Distance Over Time. Let's not even joke around about something that stupid.
I would think people would do that. Yeah, this album again it's such an outlier for me. This one is going to be almost impossible for me to rank because it kind of sits outside their catalog for me. So, all right, Bob. So before we move on, Astonishing, yay or nay?
I like it. I don't love it. So it's an average Dream Theater record for me.
Okay.
It's okay.
Wow. I think you were the very first person I've heard with a middle of the road opinion. Most people are always like either like it's shit or it's awesome.
No, like I love a handful of Dream Theater records and I dislike a few, but most of them I think are okay. Like I respect the musicianship. I don't always love. It's not an easy listen to just to listen. You got to pay attention. And it's not a lot of time I can do that. So if I could give them more time, I might like things like this, I think.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. So number 38 is Opeth's 2011 release, Heritage. All right, Bob, tell us a little about Heritage.
So Heritage is the first record in the new Opeth direction. This is no screams at all. This is Mikkel, as the guy said.
Nice.
This is him basically saying, I'm getting older. I don't want to write stuff that's screaming anymore.
Yeah.
So this is classic progressive rock. This is not metal. So this was quite the fans took this kind of hard. So it's not a great album. It's messy. It's all over the place. There's a ton of great ideas, they're all over the place. It's very messy. He gets better with his new records, if you like that style of Opeth, but this is rough. This is a rough one. He needs a little work on this one.
Okay. Yeah, well, okay. Well, so this guy says, thankfully, Opeth found their artistic footing with Heritage's nearly perfect successor. Before, I don't know where that's on the list, but would you agree with that?
No. This guy, this one of the things I looked at on this list, he has the follow up to Heritage as like top 10, and I think he's insane for that. But we'll get to that there.
Interesting. Okay. And now for another kick in the balls. This idiot has at number 37 the greatest Dream Theater album there is, which of course is 1997's Falling Into Infinity. This record is so unfairly maligned as far as I'm concerned, and I get it at every turn, and I've just gotten used to it. I have just gotten used to it. This is just such a great record to me. Like it's still Dream Theater, but it's more loose and jammy and kind of, yeah. I mean, Chastity Crawley, I mean, she nails it. Falling Into Infinity is a great album, and I agree with what he says that it warrants more acclaim than it receives. It should be much higher. Yeah, I mean, it's still got like those prog moments to it. It's got the cool, like, jammy stuff, but it's also a little bit more accessible. So I don't understand why this record gets crapped on the way that it does by the fan base.
I like the review though. He does say that he says it's certainly underappreciated. He says 3-part Trial of Tears is riveting and emotional as well. We know we all love that song. Well, you and I love that song.
Oh yeah.
So at least we agree with the points he makes about the album. I don't know that I have a huge problem where they placed this. Maybe I'd put it more in the mid-20s. I mean, I know you have a massive love for this album, but I think you're kind of you'll admit you're an outlier on that a bit, at least.
Well, Discuss Metal Joseph Fred. Good to see you, brother, by the way. He says, jammy, like good toast. Yeah, Kale's with me. He says, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with this guy? Falling Into Infinity slaps. It's probably the greatest gateway record they could have. It deserves far better. Kale, that is the exact term I would use for it too. Gateway record. I think that it's definitely a much easier listen than pretty much anything else in the catalog.
It is. Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say, I love the live versions of these songs on the Once in a Lifetime, I think, record.
Yeah.
I bought that early on, and I love the live versions of it. I think that was an awesome production. It made me like this album more than I did.
Yeah.
It was great. A great concert.
It definitely rocks, dude. Like I said, I get it's not quite as proggy as their other stuff, but I think there's enough of that there to, like, if you're going to change direction, like Queensryche went it completely into shitter. If Dream Theater was going to say, okay, well, we're going to change direction, we're just going to do stuff like Falling Into Infinity, I don't think there would have been much fan backlash to say, here's a different side of the band. Like, because it's just adding a little bit more of a rock feel to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not this monstrous left turn.
No, but it's sneaky in that it is I still think it's a very eclectic album for them. I don't think it's a true representation of really what the band is to me. I'll put it that way.
All right.
I don't know if you can see what I'm saying, but
no, I completely understand.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense. I just, for me,
well, and I don't even like Awake that much, obviously, but I think Awake is a truer representation than what Falling Into Infinity to me is. There's some songs I love on there, but I'm like, so I don't know if I buy the Gateway thing, because I think it's, like I said, it's not a true representation. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Moving on to number 36, we have Opeth's 1998 release, My Arms, Your Hearse. So I'm assuming this is like the last of the really dark metal records.
This is, but I love this record.
Okay.
This one is the first real taste of what's coming. Now their more epic albums are coming, their next couple, but I love this record. The songs are the best so far that they've done. This is a great. It's very heavy, but they do have an acoustic song on it. The songs I think are structured a little bit better. So this is the first gateway for Opeth. With you saying gateway for Dream Theater, this is the Opeth gateway. Like this would be a good place to start. I wouldn't even start with those first two. I would backtrack to those. But this is when they get good, in my opinion.
So if I want to listen to Opeth, I start with this one.
I would say yes. Before the first two, yes. But I would actually, if it was somebody like you guys, I would say to start with their top 2 or 3. But this is a good place to get into the band, to kind of just see, if you want to see their arc, like where they grew to and from, just totally skip out those first 2.
Okay. So would you agree with it being 36 on a list of 54?
No, it's what I did, and I told Hendrickson I was going to do this, but I ranked my Opeth albums to me, and where he put this is actually 10th in Opeth, and I would put it as 4th. So way different, but
wow.
Yeah, way different. But that's the thing with a lot of these bands. They're all great albums, so it's hard to rank great albums against each other. But I love this record, I guess, more than him. So,
well, we'll be doing that in 2 weeks when we do our Dream Theater album rankings.
Hey, Aerosmith had My Fist Your Face, Opeth, My Arms Your Hearse.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's a cool. I love the name. That's a cool name for an album. I have no idea what it means, but it's interesting. Clue. It says here, and maybe you know this, Bob. It says it centers on a ghost who jealously watches their lover move on.
Yeah, Opeth is they're known for having some concept albums. This one was kind of loose. They get a little bit more into the concept later, but their next album is full concept album. But this one, it's loose. It's a little spooky. Nice. You can't really tell in the picture of the album cover on this article, but there's a spooky guy standing there in the woods with a little white face, like a Scream villain kind of guy. So a little creepy.
Okay. Eek.
Yeah.
Nice. Alrighty, so moving on to number 35, and I might gloss over some because we are at an hour already, so I don't want to not get to the top part of the list. Number 35 is Queensryche's 2013 debut with Todd LaTorre, self-titled Queensryche. I guess it's fair to put it here, but I would say that, this record was, I was so interested to see what they would do with a new singer. I was like, are they going to go back and do the good shit? And they did, man. I mean, say what you want about the LaTorre records. People have said, oh, they're not as good as the classic stuff. Well, yeah, when you're comparing stuff to, Mindcrime and Rage for Order and Empire and stuff like that, of course it's not. But they've been consistently good, and it is the classic sound. Like, you're back to getting what you hoped you were going to get from Queensryche after, either Empire or Promised Land. And I think LaTorre sounds great. The shows are fantastic. So I think there's some great stuff. He even mentions one of my favorite songs on this album, In This Light. I thought was really good. And, I think it's a good placement for this one. So, Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's a good spot for it. I like it. It was the first one I listened to in many, many years. I was like, all right, I can dig this. It's cool.
Yeah. It gets you back into Queensryche,
Yep.
I think it's a little low, honestly. I think the first LaTorre and the latest are really the best in terms of just the songs in general. For me, that I'm a fan of. So I was kind of surprised this one was this low. I sort of thought in the middle there, they're kind of still not sure what they were doing, but they definitely found it on the very last album.
Yeah, I think what's the one with Blood of the Levant? I like that one, I think, a little better than this first one, but I definitely think Digital Noise Alliance is their best with LaTorre for sure.
Yep.
So, all right, at number 34, we have 2009's Dream Theater release, Black Clouds and Silver Linings. I think this is probably about a perfect spot for this one. Again, this like we said in our deep dive, this is a weird record. Anytime you've got an album with so few songs, it's going to be odd because you have to cover a lot of musical ground and not a lot of tracks. So this is definitely a weird one, man. Like it's kind of like Systematic Chaos. Like the highs are really high, and the lows are like, okay. So what are your guys' thoughts on Black Clouds and Silver Linings?
Well, the old is the sum greater than its parts. I think the parts on here are insane because you've got Nightmare to Remember. You've got Count of Tuscany. I think a really insanely underrated, simplest song that took 5 minutes. Wither. I grow to appreciate that song more and more.
Yep.
But I could see the idea that it's kind of uneven, but like you said, the highs are so damn high that this probably about right.
What do you think, Bob?
Yep, I'm with you. You named the songs that I know from this record. Awesome.
See, isn't that the case? Like that's what I mean. Like the highs are high, and then the others are kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever listened to this album all the way through, but Nightmare to Remember, Count of Tuscany are bangers. I'm into those.
It's definitely a great bookend, or they are great bookends, I should say. Kale, wait a minute, this guy nailed a ranking? Chastity says, weird isn't bad. I like it. And JG3 says, Black Clouds and Silver Linings is the perfect name for it. Amazing moments, some really weak WTF moments. Alrighty, so moving on to number 33, we have Opeth's 2016 record, Sorceress. Tell us a little bit about Sorceress, Bob.
I can't get into it. It's a tough listen. I think Hendrickson might like it a lot. Brian, I would maybe start with this one if I was you. This one is all retro fusion of jazz, and it's kind of crazy. Like I think it's boring. It's on the bottom of my list. Other than the heavy black metal stuff, this is the worst. It's boring. Like honestly, listening through it for me is boring, but maybe my ears aren't smart enough to understand what's happening. But this one is definitely too high. This one should be way lower.
Do they play any of these songs in that Garden of the Gods?
Yeah, they play.
I've watched a few times.
so they play their the title track, Sorceress. They basically play that at every live show now. So I'm sick of it. Like I'm tired of the song, but it's the one song I liked when it first came out.
Okay.
But no, not a fan. They might play a few because I think it was this tour that Red Rock show is. So there's probably a few other tunes off there for sure. But one of the worst Opeth records. It's really bad.
Yeah, I just without knowing anything about it, when I'm thinking of a progressive metal band and it's saying Sorceress took the retro jazz fusion prog rock vibes and added a double dose of 1970s heavy metal gruffness. Like what? That's okay. That's
a Motorhead then, or what?
Yeah, like that's kind of
no. I wish it was Motorhead.
So then, what is he even talking about?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's so much stuff. He must have been on drugs when he was doing this record. I love Michael, but man, I don't. This album was rough.
Yeah, JG3 says it's not just a bad record, but a bad sounding record.
100% agree with you. It's rough. It's a tough listen.
All right, so let's get to something that is not a tough listen. Number 32, which is Queensryche's Condition Human from 2015. It was the last album to feature original drummer Scott Rockenfield, who we still don't know if he's gone crazy or not. So, not too much to say about this. To me, this one pretty much was like rinse and repeat from the first one. So I was excited for it. It sounded like a solid Queensryche record. And I was like, cool. All right, Queensryche.
I was excited too, and it kind of let me down. I didn't think it was as strong as the first one. I just don't think the songs are there. I think I don't know if they tried too hard, or I know it's a crazy thing trying to sort of recreate that sound, but as we've said, they definitely got better as it went on.
Any thoughts on this one, Bob?
Nope, not really. I didn't like this one as much as the one before it.
Okay,
but they're very similar. It's a good spot for it. They all belong here under the awful Queensryche stuff.
Yeah. So, have you guys noticed that we are now 22 into the list, and what if we had one Between the Buried and Me record?
We're gonna get a lot, I guess, huh?
Yeah, this guy apparently is a big fan. So, and here it is at number 31. Between the Buried and Me's 2005 release, Alaska. So he has it at number 31. It's number 31. Okay, moving on to number 30.
Agreed.
Yeah, we don't know anything. Sorry, Joseph Wren, Discuss Metal Joe. So that's number 31. At number 30, which for this list I think this is criminally low. Dream Theater's 1994 release, Awake. Brian, I know you're not a huge fan. I think this is a fantastic album. If you're telling me that there's 29 other records ahead of it, especially 8 Between the Buried and Me records, I would disagree. And I don't know anything about Between the Buried and Me, but I find it hard to believe that they have 8 records better than Awake and other stuff. So what do you guys Bob, what's your thoughts on Awake? Because I know you said that
Yeah, this one is another one that isn't one of my favorites.
Okay.
I think it's more just what came out around it. I think maybe took some of because I didn't listen to it real time. I went backwards. So
okay.
Not one of my favorites. The better stuff is coming.
John, are you keeping track how many Dream Theater we've hit so far?
I am not, but I mean we're about halfway through.
Okay.
I know we're about halfway through.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I mean I definitely am not gonna have this ahead of Distance Over Time, that's for damn sure. So I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. See, I say these rankings are going to be a bitch, man. It's going to be an absolute bitch. It's not going to be fun, but
well,
yeah.
All right, moving on. 29, Systematic Chaos. This is an absolutely 92.5% or 85% killer album.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this album, like we said, defines like high highs, low lows.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's two in here we're on record of not liking. We probably really don't even know. There's no point in really going into this too much because we just did another ranking of these. Yeah. And
by the way, Giovanni Palaia says that Awake is a perfect record, and this dude has no clue. So,
well, again, like let's give this guy credit. He put this list together. He puts it out there. Only for us to come in here and rip it to shreds. But that's what the internet is for. So I do appreciate this guy doing this list. It, gave us an easy episode, and it's fun. It's just a fun exercise.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be really difficult. I just, I don't know. I mean, we're obviously biased being huge Dream Theater guys, but.
Oh, yeah. You get 12 people to make, even if you got 12 people that were massive fans of all 4 of these bands, I guarantee the list will be all over the place.
Yep.
Look at this. So, Bob, what do you think of Systematic Chaos?
I love it. I think it's awesome. Probably my 4th favorite Dream Theater record. I like it a lot.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it just
didn't know that.
Yeah, I like it. It's good. Presence of Enemies is one of probably top 5 favorite Dream Theater songs. It's awesome.
Nice.
Hard to argue that. Hard to argue that for sure. All right. So moving on to number 28. We have Opeth's 2019 release, In Cauda Venenum. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Sure. So,
it's like, whatever.
The interesting thing about this one, so this is their newest record. This is the last thing that they've done. They released this album in both English and Swedish.
Yeah.
Two different versions. So you can listen to him do it in his native language. And then I guess when they interviewed him, they said he was scared to just release a Swedish version that, people that spoke English wouldn't buy it, but I like it. It's the best of the 4 for me of the new style Opeth C. It's good. It's got some heavy, it's got some good ballads. It's, I would say, best of the C era, but still doesn't touch their prime years. Good album.
I just got a very upsetting text message from my younger brother. I'm sorry. That's this one's for Kale. Kale, AJ is at Star Wars trivia, and they're trying to tell him that Princess Leia dressed as Boosh in Episode 5, and they won't admit that he is wildly wrong. So that's very upsetting. Anyway,
Actually, I just got a quick text. We have an expert on Between the Buried and Me. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Dirt and Grass. They're Between the Buried and Me.
Yeah.
Are you really serious?
I wrote this down like 3 hours to bust this out.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So, are you idiots? Yes, we are.
No.
Is that for the
Star Wars thing? Dude, that's crazy. Anyway, all right. So moving on to number 27, we have Queensryche's 1984 album, The Warning. Technically, their first full length, since the debut was an EP. But I'm not as familiar with like the first two Queensryche releases, but I know they're really good. Brian, what do you think? I mean, I know that you love the older stuff, so
man, this I don't know. There was one point I was like texting Aiken. I'm like, The Warning is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like a year ago or so. It's like, it is, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. I don't know. I just happened to just throw it on again. It's so freaking good. I mean, it just reminds me of a more progressive Power Slave kind of a vibe, I guess, because it's from that era, right? Every song is just like, you know, I mean, it's hard not to call that prog when you've got a 10.5, whatever it is, Roads to Madness on there. You know, the author says, Child of Fire, great. Take Hold of the Flame, the single. I mean, I'm still kicking myself that I did not go to see this performed live front to back, but it is what it is. You know, you can only go to so many concerts. I don't know, man. The more I listen to and think about The Warning, I think this is kind of criminally underrated. And I know, like, Bob's is considerably younger than me, so when he probably hears this, he's probably like, it's kind of an 80s guitar thing. But you also have to put yourself in the frame of mind. At that time, there was nothing like this. There was no singer like Tate other than maybe Dickinson. There was nobody making these kind of, you know, epic songs like this other than Maiden. And I just think I would say this is insanely low.
What are your thoughts on this one, Bob?
I'm not super familiar with it. I think I've probably tried to listen to it before, but didn't really go so well. I wouldn't put it in one of my favorites. But I think what Brian's saying is true. Probably the age, like with me, like it just didn't hit.
Yeah, it's gonna sound dated. That's just a fact. I mean, you can't change, you know.
Yeah, I have to say I think this might be like perfectly placed for me. I like it. But there's a lot of other Queensryche I would listen to. The classic stuff that I enjoy. I think I'd listen to a bunch of other stuff before it. So, but I mean, it's definitely good. I mean, you're not turning it off if it comes on. That's for sure. It's just there's other stuff I like better. And there's definitely stuff that Bob likes better. For example, number 26, which is Opeth's 2008 release, Watershed. Give us a little bit of info on Opeth. By the way, we are still at only, 2 Beneath the Buried in Me records?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, there's be a lot we're going to be skipping quickly then.
Yeah, we'll make up some time there, but yeah,
Nice.
So Watershed was Opeth's last record with screamy vocals, but it was a good mix of scream and slower songs. It's got beautiful songs. It's got brutal songs. I love this record. It's my third favorite Opeth record. It's heavy, and the ballad songs are dark. The band is at their best here. It's a shame that this was their last heavy album. I hope at some point maybe he second guesses that and does it again, but this album's awesome. This is a great album. Well produced, heavy, sounds awesome. I love it.
Okay. JG3 says, if you are a Dream Theater fan, you would definitely like Watershed. And if I'm remembering the years correctly, let me think. No, this is later than that. But I was thinking like the Gigantour and stuff like that was around this time, but that was a couple years earlier in this. So okay.
Did they come on the second Gigantour, Opeth? They weren't on the first one.
No, this album came out when they went on tour with Progressive Nation with Dream Theater.
Okay, that's the tour. Okay.
Yeah, it was them and Between the Buried and Me. And
Yeah.
it was basically I watched a podcast with Portnoy on it, and he basically said he wanted to pick the bands. He had his say, and he wanted to pick these bands because he loved them and he was a huge fan. So yeah, this was that time. This is right when he brought them along on the tour here in North America, and then he also took them over to Europe the following year.
Okay. Well, here we go. We have a skip. Number 25, Between the Buried and Me, Automata 1 in 2018. Okay. We don't know anything about that. All right. Yeah, Chastity, you're right. She says, I think the author has a thing for Between the Buried and Me. Yeah, definitely.
It's no Automata 2, let's put it that way.
Right. At number 24, we have Queensryche's most recent release, Digital Noise Alliance. I think this is a great record. I don't know if you could rate it any higher, but I think having it this high on the list, considering stuff that came before it, I could see that. But I think this record doesn't quite get the due that it deserves. I liked it when I first listened to it. Then we did our deep dive, and I was like, man, I missed the boat on this. This is a kick-ass album. So I think Digital Noise Alliance is great. There are very few low points in it. And I think it sounds great too. I think the production is very Empire to me, which is awesome. So it's just a total throwback to like those Queensryche records that I loved back in the day. So what are your guys' thoughts on Digital Noise Alliance?
It's an amazing record other than that cover, but it's not their song.
Yes. Thank you.
It's horrible. It's so bad, but yeah, no, the record is phenomenal. I remember Brian, as soon as it came out and leading up to it, he sent me a few of the songs. It's awesome. Yep. Like it really took me back to old school Queensryche. Awesome.
It's funny because the author here mentions the Rebel Yell cover.
Yeah.
I don't know. The band I'm in now, we play Rebel Yell, and it's like, okay, it's Rebel Yell. Like I don't need to hear Queensryche do.
Yeah,
and we joked about this before, right? When we did a kind of a deep dive on this. It's like the bonus track. It's a bonus track. Come on. What the hell are you talking about? You just threw this on here. Like, I don't know. It's just, if they want to come out and play Rebel Yell, fine, but you don't need to record a version of it.
Right. I think this album is definite proof that they need to record more albums in Hulk Hogan's old house. We'll just put it that way.
Nice.
So that's because what they did. So all right, so moving on to number 23. I think this is
wow. This is going to be interesting. What you say about this?
It's ranked too high. It is Dream Theater's 2011 release, A Dramatic Turn of Events. Yeah, this is an album that never really grabbed me. I am in a major fan minority where this record is concerned. This album gets a lot of love, and honestly, outside of Breaking All Illusions, a lot of it blends together for me. Outcry, Bridges in the Sky, things like that. I'm like, wait, which one is which? Like, and
okay.
All
right, hold on a second. Did you read the review of this? So there's a couple words in here. The carnivalistic on the. Have you ever heard the word carnivalistic? I've never have.
I mean, it makes sense, I suppose.
The carnivalistic on the backs of angels and Bridges in the Sky, to the madcap instrumentation of Breaking All Illusions.
Heartfelt grandeur of symphonic code beneath the surface.
No, I'm okay with that, but madcap. I mean, that implies this fucking Three Stooges. I'm sorry.
Well, but beneath the surface is described as having grandeur. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, what?
Again, that's subjective, but madcap? I mean, come on.
Yeah. That sounds like a little slide whistle, like whoop, whoop, whoop. Like,
yeah. Like the Three Stooges. Like, I listened to the podcast earlier talk about the Three Stooges, and it's like, they're always like, oh, we're going to leave you boys in charge. Like, you boys? These guys are like 45-year-old men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Madcap to describe breaking all illusions. That's weird. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't.
Yeah.
I would use Madcap for like the middle of Dance of Eternity or something, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The barroom boogie piano, but I don't know. He says it's a superb album. I agree. I don't know. I always kind of try to go back to some things, and I generally do listen to what John says and try to see if I could see where he's coming from on certain albums and stuff when it comes to Dream Theater specifically. But man,
This one you definitely don't.
I just don't. I just think it's great, man. I don't know. Bob, your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I think I texted you about this in the last 6 months or so. This album is awesome. I
Nice.
freaking love this record.
Sweet.
This is my third favorite behind the two obvious ones. This is the best they've done since Images and Words, to my opinion. I love this record. I absolutely love it. I spun it for like a week straight when I discovered it. It just something about it. It hit me. I love On the Backs of Angels, Build Me Up, Break Me Down. Awesome. I love these songs.
That
awesome
was the other one
album.
I was trying to think of.
Yep.
Yeah,
Awesome album.
I'll have to go try and listen to it again and see what I'm missing. I
mean, it sounds so simplistic, but to me, it's an album. Like Bob said, it's an album of songs.
Yep.
And it's easy to say that and not know what you mean, but Bob and I are kind of on the same page. It's just an album of songs, man. They're just great songs, I think.
Okay. JG3, I do have to correct you real quick. He says, my biggest problem with Dramatic Turn of Events is the programmed drums. They should have just had Mangini come in and record with them. Drum machine was the wrong choice for the band. Well, he actually did record the drums. Petrucci gave him the stuff that he had programmed, said, here, do this. And he changed a couple things that were almost impossible, like for a human to do. But yeah, I've always read that he actually did record organic drums for it. It was just basically Petrucci wrote all of them. So yeah, I don't get it, but it's, okay. Coming in at number 22, Between the Buried and Me, Colors, 2007. As we don't know anything about it, we can move past that. Number 21, Opeth's 2002 album Deliverance. Bob, give us some background on Deliverance.
So Deliverance it's a double album basically, but they released them separately. They wanted to go in and do a dark album, and they wanted to do an acoustic album.
Okay.
They're both dark, so both of them are dark. This one is heavier. Like 3 of the 4 songs are brutally heavy, and then the other part of this is Damnation, which is all haunting, slow singing. But Deliverance has the title track. Deliverance is their song. Like they close it with every one of their shows now. Great.
Okay.
It's like a 14-minute epic. It's really, really good. So it's a great album. It's right in the middle of their heyday. So great album. Not one of their best, I think, but probably 6 and 7 so right in the middle of their catalog. It's good stuff.
This is Stephen Wilson produced,
Yep.
which I'm kind of shocked if they're going to do this Big Four, like, because there's not one guy in Dream Theater that doesn't nonstop talk about Stephen Wilson and Porcupine Tree. So I'm kind of shocked if you did a Big Four that you don't have Porcupine Tree in there, to be honest.
Well, I don't think they're very metal, are they?
They're not metal, Brian. That's the
Yeah.
key. I don't think they have hardly anything that you would consider metal. It's rock.
That's true. It says prog
Yeah.
metal, I guess. All right.
All right. Well, moving on to number 20. We have reached the top 20. Queensryche's 2019 album, The Verdict. Yeah, so this kind of go. I would not rank this ahead of Digital Noise Alliance. I would definitely put Digital Noise Alliance as the top of the 4 Latore records. But I think this is definitely a very, very good album. I liked it a lot. I know that I think when I saw him on this tour, I think the songs they chose to play from this album really fit in beautifully with the classic Queensryche stuff. So I think there's a lot of great spots on this one. And it's interesting because this is the one where Todd Latore played drums, and you don't even really notice. So I don't know if like he's just so good of a drummer Is that so good? I don't know if he's that good. There we go. That good of a drummer to where he can kind of mimic the Queensryche drumming style of like Scott Rockenfeld, or if that's just his style. But it's, I mean, if you didn't tell someone that the lead singer is playing drums, I don't think they would know. It sounds like Queensryche drums. So, Bob, what do you think of The Verdict?
I agree with your statement. I like the album. I think it's this one where we saw him, where I saw him with you, Brian, when we met John there. I don't remember if this was the one.
No, I think it was the
one before
it's been
this.
a while. Yeah, the one before this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is good though. I think this is another one you sent me when it first came out. It's good. I agree though. I like the new one the best. So this was probably underneath that. I don't know how this got ranked so high, but yeah, it's a good record for sure.
I need to go back to this one a little bit, but I'd probably, off the top of my head, I'd rank it third out of the 4. So it is a little weird that it's up that high to me.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great. It's funny because I would actually rate the 4 Latore records from top to bottom in reverse order of release date. So most recent to, oldest. It's pretty simple but again, I think they're all good. So
that makes sense.
Yep.
Kale McLeish is basically nailing it in the chat. He says, so the entire top 10 is basically Between the Buried and Me then. Yeah, apparently so. At number 19, though, we have Dream Theater's 2005 release, Octavarium. I think this is a great record. I could see it's getting tough to start saying, yeah, I think this is a good spot to put it, considering this guy put like every Between the Buried and Me record, in the top, third of the list. It's like, come on, dude. I mean, geez. So even if you get into them, like Dream Theater is the progressive metal band. Like, you're really going to tell me that most of Between the Buried and Me is better than most of Dream Theater? Like, I can't buy into that. So can't do that. But anyways, Octavarium, great album. Obviously the title track is very, very hot topic on the show. I personally love it. I think, this has nothing but strong songs, even songs that are kind of, middle of the road for Dream Theater, like Never Enough, or, I would say Sacrifice Sons to a point maybe, but even those are very good songs. I love These Walls. I think that is a criminally underrated Dream Theater song. So I think this is a great album. But I would say if you take out, I'd say this is a little bit low, but in terms of where the Dream Theater records are, but I still think it's good. What do you think about this one, Bob?
Yeah, I like it. The songs Octavarium is a great song. I knew the song before I knew any other songs on the record. But Panic Attack, I'm awesome. Like really good songs. This is probably close to top 5 for me as well.
Awesome. What about you, Brian? And I know you are the world's biggest flag bearer for the Root of All Evil.
I am, and I still have no idea where I stand on this album. When we go to rank these, I don't know where in the world I'm going to put this. Yeah, I guess this is roughly probably close to where it should be. I don't know. We're still reeling from Distance Over Time where that was placed. So everything like it's kind of interesting. He says in here, it's like the title track is comes across as the big brother of A Change of Seasons, which I guess I can kind of see that. He says
it's kind of a good description.
He says the sappy "I Walk Beside You" stands out as a weak spot, but it's certainly tolerable, which is, I'm sure, that's pretty much what everyone's ever said about that song. But
I like it. It's upbeat. It's fun. It's
But I can understand people are going to say it's sappy and took 5 seconds to write. But yeah, so I think we're all right with where that is. It's not too insane.
Okay. At number 18, we have another skip, because we don't know anything about it. Between the Buried and Me, The Great Misdirect, 2009. Yeah, so at some point, we're going to have to go back and listen to this stuff and see what we think. So, JG,
yeah, I think
I will tolerate I Walk Beside You slander. I'm with you, Jay. Sorry. All right, go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
No, sorry for interrupting. I think everybody would like some of these Between the Buried and Me albums. I think it's just they're tough listens. They're hard to cram for a test. You know, it's like I listened to a few of them, Colors that we passed. I listened to it once. I'm like, all right, it's good, but I'm gonna have to listen to it probably 4 or 5 more times. But I think it has the potential to be really good. So I think it's probably worth a shot.
Okay.
I love when something starts out with this. Plenty of fans would cry foul at putting
Yeah.
the Great Mystery. Yeah, like everyone's out there going foul, foul. It's just so stupid. Like, what kind of? I love that style of writing, though. That's amazing. All right, what's next?
Number 17 is Opeth's 2003 release, Damnation.
Yeah,
so this is the acoustic one, isn't it? You said.
Yeah, this is the other half. It's all acoustic, all singing. It's technically the first album they've done with no screams, but it's good. It's a fan favorite. Everybody likes it. They always play one song off of it every time they do a show. It's great. It's so haunting. Like you would think all acoustic, basically, no screaming, but it's like probably one of the more evil sounding records that they've ever done. It's really a nice album. Not my favorite just because of style, but I recognize it's beautifully haunting. Like definitely worth a listen.
Okay. See, it's weird. Like I've wanted to get into Opeth, and now you're like scaring me a little with all the like. Okay, the first part is like ungodly heavy, then you get some cool shit, then it's some really weird crap. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if that might be a little too much for me. Like, so it's interesting.
This guy says it's at the risk of sounding hyperbolic, as close to perfection as you could imagine. So he's a pretty big fan.
And yeah, he ranked at least 6 Between the Buried and Me records ahead of it, and a total of 16 other albums ahead of it.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Speaking of number 16, what do we got, John?
This is actually a surprise. I would have thought this one would have been lower, but it isn't. It is 2003's Dream Theater release, Train of Thought. It is Dream Theater, he says, at their aggressively defiant and confrontational best, musically and lyrically. Aggressively defiant, maybe. Confrontational best musically. I think this is kind of a one-dimensional album. It's very dark. It's very stark. I really like it. But I think that for me, I was surprised that it was ranked this high. I think this is an album that doesn't get talked a lot about in fan circles. I think it gets overlooked, but I think it's because, again, I think it's a little bit one-dimensional, just because it's so heavy and so stark, which I don't have a problem with. I don't think a lot of fans do, but I think fans tend to turn towards other records than this because of that. So what do you guys think about Train of Thought?
Go ahead, Bob.
So when this first came out, I loved it. This one didn't quite stand the test of time for me. I loved the heaviness when it first came out. It was like, oh, cool, Dream Theater's doing a metal record. This sounds awesome. But it hasn't hung on for me. Like I tried listening to it again recently and it doesn't hit as well. So I'm going to go with liked it, not as much anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a lack of melody, when you get that heavy. I think sometimes you lose that. And I love this wording here. Endless sacrifice is seductively wicked yet wacky.
Yeah.
It's kooky, guys.
Is it madcap, Brian?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't really disagree with what he's saying here. I am stunned. I don't know. I'm stunned this is this high, but I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to really go listen to some Between the Buried and Me, because he's got this up there with, 7 of their albums or whatever. So
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Well, at number 15, Aiken, I know, is going to enjoy this selection, although I don't know if he would put it higher or lower. We have Queensryche's 1994 record, Promised Land, the last great Queensryche record until Todd LaTorre rejoined the band. I love this album. This is a record that when it came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? As the years have gone by, I have gained a bigger and bigger appreciation for it, to where now I love it. It's like, if you want to listen to Queensryche, but you're also in the mood for something a little bit wonky, that's what this record is. It's Queensryche doing Empire, but throwing a little bit of weirdness into it. And I think it works perfectly. The production is still that giant fat Queensryche production from Mindcrime and Empire, which is great. And I like, the unique, songs on it. There's a lot of diversity here. And I will say, I love the closing track, just the Tate doing the solo piano piece, Someone Else. If you ever get the chance, I think it's like an extended version of this album. I want to say, I don't remember if it's that or it's on a greatest hits or something, but there's a full band version of Someone Else. And I hate to say this about one of my favorite Queensryche songs. It's terrible. The full band version just completely saps all the beauty and emotion and melody, quite frankly, out of the song. I mean, I think they made an excellent decision putting the piano version on. And I think if you listen to them back to back, I would bet anything that it was a case where they recorded the full band version and then Tate was like, for a bonus, I just want to break this down to the piano and vocal. And they kind of listened to both and went, you know what, let's go with the piano and vocal one for the record instead. There's a stark difference, but I love this album. I think it's absolutely great. To me, the whole Rage for Order, Mindcrime, Empire, Promised Land run of records is, very difficult to find anything to, compete with that. It's just such a run of fantastic music. So, so what do you guys think of Promised Land?
I love it. Great album. It's after the big two for me. This is the next. This is awesome. Love the songs.
So if I remember correctly, on Monsters of Rock Cruise, the second show, I went to both shows they had. They only had one repeat song. I can't remember what that was, but they started the second show with Screaming in Digital, and I about jumped out overboard. I was so insane with excitement. Second song was Damaged. I mean, oh my God. So there really isn't a lot to that song, but it's killer.
Yeah.
It's just a killer riff. I mean, I don't know. It just has Queensryche written all over it, and it's heavy, it's progressive, it's like, damn it, it's like, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's a solid album. I totally agree with you. The stuff about the piano on that song, and then yeah, man. I mean, interesting comment from Aiken there concerning this mix of the big four. You can read that, John.
Yeah, Aiken says, just a bizarre mix of bands. Even In Flames makes more sense because they have the same sort of path as Opeth. Between the Buried in Me is more just Dillinger Escape Plan. Okay, then I'm not going to like them because I hate that band. Than anything, that's currently being compared to. By the way, Bridge is Tate's best lyrical song ever. I'm going to disagree with you on that, Chris. I mean, it's great, but I think I think there are others that I would take above Bridge, but it is awesome. I just don't know if I would say the very best.
I agree though, man. If you mention the word Dillinger Escape Plan, I am going to pull out the Hendo Escape Plan because I'm going to run as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, I can't stand that band.
They were when they put them on Gigantor, that was the only band where I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, this is just, I don't know. It's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, other than
terrible.
What's the second worst? What's that band we saw, Bob? Knocked Loose.
Yeah,
it's a close second between those two bands.
That band is huge, and I don't know why they're so big right now.
So is Dillinger Escape Plan. Nobody knows why. Yeah,
well,
they're huge.
Not anymore, considering they don't exist.
All
right, so moving on to number 14. Or should I say 13, because we're skipping past number 14, which is Between the Buried and Me, Colors 2. Let's go to number 13, Opeth, their 2001 release, Blackwater Park. Bob, tell us about Blackwater Park.
So this is their album. This is the one that broke them. It's absolutely insane that this is 13. It's not my favorite album, but it's their best album. It's the one that put them on the map. It's so heavy. It's so dark. Opeth's thing is kind of setting a mood, like setting a scene, and it's so dark and grimy, and the guitars are so good. This was Steven Wilson when he first got in to help Opeth. Man, the fact that Blackwater Park is 13th is completely insane to me. The only thing I could think of is somebody is just sick of listening to it because it's so good. But it's amazing. It's an incredible record from front to back. There's no skips. It has some of their best songs that they've ever done. It's amazing. 13, there's no way. Absolutely no way.
JG3 says Blackwater Park is their best record. I agree. Chris Aiken says Blackwater Park, best for me from them. So you got a couple fans there. All right, so if we're gonna listen to it, we got to listen. If we're gonna listen to Opeth records, we got to do that one. Okay. All
And
right.
Just one more added thing.
Yeah, sure.
I got the artwork tattooed across all my arms. See little shadows there. So
Nice. Okay.
This is the album. This is awesome.
So that's the one. All right. Number 12, Queensryche, their 1990 masterpiece, Empire. Yeah, this is what can you say? It's an absolutely kick-ass record. It's just front to back. It's like, Bob just said, no skips for the Opeth record. Yeah, no skips here for me. It's just, I mean, the guy said, it's funny. The guy's last quote is, simply put, you have to bow down to Empire every time you hear it. Yeah, there's just no low spots, on this. I mean, it's kind of cool because like I feel like stuff like Della Brown kind of is like a precursor to Promised Land. I think you could hear that song on Promised Land, but it's just, I mean, I don't think there's a Queensryche fan alive that would say, you know what, Empire, not that good. So
is this Prog though? I don't know. See what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, no, yeah.
It's not. The songs aren't long enough, even that.
Yeah.
It's incredible, though. So the only thing if you're going to put it, I guess you got to put Queensryche on this list, but put it at 12. I don't, it's such a classic album. I don't know why 12 doesn't make sense.
Well, what confuses me is that there's still one of their records coming up in the top 11. So to me, and I'll just say it, the EP, no, there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that the EP is better than Empire. First of all, it's an EP. It's only got what, 4 songs on it? 5? So of course, I mean, you can cherry pick if it's the first thing you've ever released. So,
all right, wait a second. Marcio Santetti. So to take this one step further, I love Empire, but do you consider it a metal record? I think I consider it metal, but I don't know if I consider it prog. Is that wrong or no? Am I wrong on both counts?
I might almost consider Empire more hard rock with a teeny bit of progressive elements to it. You got stuff like Della Brown, like Anybody Listening.
I think that I don't think you can attack it for that reason, though. You agreed to put it on this list, so
yeah.
If you're gonna put Queensryche on this list, their top 2 or 3 albums, Empire is in that. You got to treat it as such. You can't hold against it what type of music it is. It's a classic rock album at this point, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I'm saying, I agree completely. I mean, I think this would be the record that would make you say, okay, yeah, they're not a prog metal band. So what are they doing on this list? This is, okay. Aiken says it was metal at the time. They toured with Metallica, for fuck's sake. Okay. Just because they toured with Metallica doesn't mean that they were metal. Like, it's got some heavy aspects to it, but I don't think they're metal. I mean, look at everybody else Metallica toured with. Queensryche was the lightest band they toured with. So I think they were more hard rock.
I mean, Empire for sure, I would say, is metal. That the title song. I'm trying to go through the song list and see it. It's tough finding another one beside that, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the top 11, and now here comes. Let me count something real quick before we do this. There's 1.
Oh boy, John doing math. This always
2,
ends up well.
He's counting how many Between the Buried and Me albums are better than
3. There are 3 Between the Buried and Me albums, according to this guy, that are better than 1992's Dream Theater, just magnum opus, Images and Words. There is no fucking way you can tell me that 3 Between the Buried and Me records are better than Images and Words, if you are going to say this is the big four of, that's like saying if you're going to have like the big four, you're going to rank the big four with like Slayer, Metallica, Anthrax, and Megadeth. Like, you're going to tell me that instead of, you're a Master of Puppets. Yeah, there's, 3 Anthrax records that are better than that. And I fucking love Anthrax, but no, like,
Well,
I mean, it
is interesting because Chris Aiken said earlier that, he doesn't believe Between the Buried and Me is even a prog band. So,
yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, what else can you say about Images and Words? I think the only commentary you could make is that Pull Me Under is overplayed. I hear that from a lot of people.
a band's biggest hit single is overplayed. Shocker!
I know, right?
That's only because we have Spotify and streaming. If we didn't have that, it wouldn't be freaking overplayed. It wouldn't be played at all.
No, I agree, but I'm saying that's really the only thing that people.
Chris Aiken
JG3. Chris Aiken doesn't believe in love.
He never has. He never will.
Nice.
He's out there spreading the disease, though, isn't he?
We're not doing it, man. Oh my God. Cale McLeish, have we had scenes yet? Cale, we have not.
Oh boy,
So-
well, you're in for quite a treat, Cale. Well, so are you,
Yeah.
Bob. Well, Bob's already
Yeah.
seen the list. So
Yeah. So, what do you guys? Are we in agreement that this is ranked too low?
Absolutely. 100%. This is garbage.
yeah, I mean, I don't. It's hard to believe that it wouldn't be. I don't know. Let's go back to my thing of your medium fan of all 4 bands. This I don't know how this is in top 5.
Well, I mean, it's not even top 10.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about progressive metal, like the first band that's going to come to mind is Dream Theater. Okay, I would assume, and the first record that comes to mind with Dream Theater is Images and Words, and you're gonna put it at number 11? Like, that's ridiculous.
Well,
Okay,
like you said, this guy's obviously way more into the Between the Buried and Me than we are. So
yeah. I mean, he obviously likes number 10 better, which is Between the Buried and Me, Automata 2 from 2018. Like, okay, what
see, I told you it was better than 1.
there you go.
You were right.
From start to finish, Automata 2 is utterly jaw-dropping. No, what's jaw-dropping is you have 10 records ahead of Images and Words. Number 9, Bob, you are up. It is Opeth's 1999 release, Still Life.
This is their concept record. It's Blackwater Park Jr. This is what came out right before it. It started the Opeth B. So it's a great record. It's not 9th. I'm sorry, it's not. It's probably the 5th or 6th best Opeth record. Fans love it. Like, if you look at fans how they rank Opeth, they love Still Life. I love it, but it's not better than Blackwater Park. So kind of case closed there. Great record though. It's concept. It's a concept that I don't really care much about, but it's a concept. It's a great progressive metal album. Probably their first real progressive metal album. So it's good. Probably too high.
I like the wording in this. Eckerfeld's growls and laments never sounded so good. I love when someone's laments sound good. Like, man, your laments were amazing.
The second track on the album is called Godhead's Lament. So I think he stole from
that.
Oh my God. All right. Well, number 8, we have Dream Theater's 2002 release, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. I love 6 Degrees, but I don't know if I would put it above Images and Words. I mean, I don't think you can.
No.
Wow. I'm shocked to hear you say that. I really am.
I mean, and I haven't done my rankings yet, and again, Images and Words might suffer like the same fate for me that Van Halen 1 does if I'm talking about Van Halen records, and that I don't listen to it as much because some of it I've heard the song so goddamn many times. But I just think from an influence standpoint, from what a classic it is, it basically, Images and Words started all of this. There wouldn't be a list like this if it wasn't for Images and Words. So I think, I wouldn't think that you could put this up there. but they did. I love it. I mean, there's nothing else you can say. Obviously the 6 Degrees suite is just one of the best things they've ever done. It's, the glass prison alone is worth the price of admission here. And you combine that with the Great Debate and goddamn, whew, man. So, all right, JG3 says he can put 6 Degrees over Images. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more people with Will than you think there were.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think? Too high, too low?
Seems about right for me, honestly.
I would put
Okay.
6 Degrees here, obviously, in Images and Words I'd put up. But this is a good spot for this. A great album. Keep this at 8 and put Images and Words at 4 or 3, whatever. That's what I would do.
I could see that. I could totally see that. But there are 7 records ahead of it. And now here's where we get an opinion from Brian. At number 7, I am going to probably battle Brian on this one. It is Queensryche's 1986 record, Rage for Order. I think this is much too high. I like Rage for Order. There are a lot of records I like more than this one, and I think it's inconsistent, and some of the weird moments are just too goddamn weird.
I'll agree it's probably too high, and I love this album. It's probably, I guess it's my falling. So used to saying it now. It's my falling.
Right.
It's my falling into infinity. This stuff, it's so all over the place. I don't know what. I just really don't know what even was in their headspace when they're coming up with this Tatus. I think it's a brilliant album front to back. I don't even know if this is prog. It's like sort of a thinking man's metal industrial something, you know. I mean, there's some obvious classic Queensryche, you know, but some of the other stuff, like we said, like Screaming in Digital, Neue Regel, like that's pretty out there, man. I mean, I absolutely love this album. I don't know that I would have it over The Warning necessarily. It's a tough call for me, man. This to me is one of the most polarizing, probably metal albums of all time. I don't know many people that are probably in the middle on this one. I think it's a masterpiece.
What do you think of this one, Bob?
It's not one of my favorites. I'm still stuck on them putting Empire so low. I think Empire is better than Rage for Order. Maybe it's my age, but Empire is a banger. This one it's a little weird. I just can't really get into it.
Yeah, I do get into it, but it's definitely one of those just one of those absolutely, like, if I want to listen to something wonky and I want to hear some Queensryche, I think this is the one I'm going to listen to. This one, or Promised Land, as we said.
I mean, so. I'm full disclosure. Like, if I turn someone onto this and they gonna get close to you, and they tell me it's the stupidest song they've heard of all time, I mean, how can I sit here and argue? But I love it. I mean, I have memories of like visiting my aunt in Florida. The cassette came out. I bought it. I threw it in my dad's freaking stupid Toyota. Drove around by myself.
Dad's stupid Toyota.
Yeah, at age 17 or whatever, and I rocked the shit out of it. I thought it was just, it was a little bit of a grower, but it was just like, this is cool. I was like, no one else is doing this, and no one else really has done an album like that since.
No, that I agree with. By the way, KO, real quick, despite the fact that the hosts don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, the Aluminum Falcons are now officially 14-0 in officially sanctioned Star Wars trivia contests. And AJ did it on his own. It is our 4th solo victory. I have 2. He has 2.
Officially sanctioned. I want to know. Yep. Well, tell me what that means later. Let's not waste time now.
All I know is the Aluminum Falcons always show up and they always win. So, anyways, all right, we can skip number 6. Between the Buried and Me, Coma Ecliptic in 2015.
Loved it. Amazing.
It's got a dude floating in the air in a desert on the cover. The cover looks cool. Again, I'll have to try and listen to this, but if this is Dillinger Escape Plan esque, then I'm not So we're into the top 5. Bob, you are up. Opeth's 2014 release, Pale Communion.
No. So this it's not a bad album. A lot of people like it. It's new Opeth C. It's okay. It's a classic rock album. It's not number 5. Like closed case. It's not the 5th. I don't know what this guy's thinking. It's a classic rock album. It's good. I like listening to it. But it's not this good. It's average to me when it comes to Opeth's catalog. So yeah, this is insane to me. Completely insane.
It says there's delicate piano work and vibrant keys on the beautifully tragic Eternal Rains Will Come.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
I mean, you will, Brian, if you listen to this album front to back, you'd love it. A lot of keyboards, you would love this record. It's not top 5 Opeth, let alone top 5 of these 4 bands. This doesn't make any sense to me. It's extremely too high. This should probably be like 30 to 35.
Wow. Okay.
Well,
now,
Bob, you're up for a back-to-back, it looks like.
I was going to say, having said that, would you say that number 4 should be Opeth's 2005 released 2005's Ghost Reveries?
Yeah, this is my favorite album, where I say Blackwater Park is the best album. This one is insane good. This one is the Brian, the concert you saw, the Ghost of Perdition, the big, it's a long epic song. It's phenomenal. They have a song called Harlequin Forest. It's amazing. Front to back, this is my favorite album. I never get sick of it. It's phenomenal. Lots of vocal changes, a lot of growls, but a lot of clean vocals. Michael's at his best here. Guitar playing, their drummer's phenomenal. Everything is great here. This is Opeth at their best, production wise and material wise. I have no problem with this placement. This is perfect. Great album. 100 out of 100.
Yeah, it says here, the final line about this says, in a nutshell, Ghost Reveries mixes the best of all worlds into Opeth's most epic and illustrative observation, as Akerfeld often puts it. So it's their quintessential release.
I like at the beginning, it says it's tempting to say it's their masterpiece. And then in parentheses, naysayers be damned.
Damn me.
Yeah.
Damn it, Bob, you naysayer.
Who else gets damned other than naysayers? Like
right.
torpedoes maybe, but it's like,
if you asked 100 Opeth fans what they thought liked better, Ghost Reveries or Pale Communion, I bet you 99 out of 100 would say Ghost Reveries is far, far better. It's genius. It's perfect. It's a perfect record.
Well, it's ranked higher, so
yeah.
All right. Well, now we are into our top 3. By the way, Aiken does not like this. He's calling it the Junkpeth era. 10 spots better than Blackwater Park. Ridiculous. All right, so we have our top 3. And kind of hard to argue here. It is Queensryche's 1988 release, Operation Mindcrime. If I had a list of perfect albums, which I do, that I keep adding to, this is definitely on it, if not at the top of it. Operation Mindcrime is just everything that a great album should be. Like we said earlier when we were talking about Operation Mindcrime 2, this is lightning in a bottle. Every aspect of a record is here on full display. Every great aspect of it. If you want good production, if you want good lyrics, if it's a concept record, you want a good story. If you want good, production, everything, great solos, amazing melodies. Every single thing is here in this record. It is one of the 3 most influential records of my life, behind only And Justice for All in 1984, as I have said on the show many times. So this is a perfect spot for me. The only argument I could make is that you could probably make it number 2. If someone wanted to argue to make it number 1, I wouldn't argue. So what do you guys think about Operation Mindcrime?
Well, if you're going to put Queensryche on this list, then there is no planet whatsoever that this is not number one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, there's no way. I mean, and we know it's at number one, and I like that album there. Not to jump start things, but like I don't see how in the world this, if you're putting Queensryche in this with these four bands, and this album is in there, how is this not number one? I have no clue. Zero.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's all I have to say about that. Bob, Operation Mindcrime, your thoughts?
Well, I disagree. It will not be number one because Scenes is better, but Mindcrime is classic.
Oh, what are you doing? We still got number 2 to get to.
I'm sorry that if you didn't know, if I'm spoiling, I'm sorry.
We got 52 records in and you spoiled it, you bastard.
The audience had a 50-50 shot on that one.
Yeah, they actually thought it was the Parallax 2 future sequence. So sorry about that. Mindcrime is an amazing record. It's the thing that got me into the band, and first thing I heard, it's amazing. There's again no skips. It's one that you listen to as a full record, and without this record, probably nothing else on this list exists. This is the baseline.
Wow. Okay. Even more so than Images and Words, huh?
Yeah. I don't think Images and Words exist without this either, for sure.
That is a whole nother argument, but I can't say that I disagree. I would have to think long and hard about that.
Yeah. I just think this had to have been so influential to so many bands, everything about it.
I remember when it came out and one of my buddies bought it for me as a Christmas present. I want to say it was Christmas or birthday present. It might have been a birthday present, but in any case, and I had never heard of Queensryche at the time. And I put it in and I was like, it starts out, I mean, it just kept going. I mean, obviously the first 2 songs, Operation Mindcrime and Revolution Calling, whatever, like they're super memorable and those are just bangers. But then as it kept going, I was like, man, oh man, like I'm loving every single one of these songs. And I just, to this day, I listen to it and you almost can't turn it off. You're like, I'll listen to a little of this, but then you're like, but it's so goddamn good. Like, like, holy shit, man. Like, it's just amazing.
Oh, I mean, we talked before, like Eyes of a Stranger. I mean, I don't know. Is there much of an argument that that's top 5 metal songs of the 80s or of all time? I don't know. Maybe it's number 1.
I have several friends that aren't Queensryche fans that absolutely love that song, and I think that says it all. And I've tried to tell them, like, if you like that song, you might like the rest of the record, because I don't think that's like taking a long leap to say that if you like that song, you would like the rest of the material.
I mean, for me, The Mission, that's like, oh my God, that's just, I mean, that's so beyond good. I love The Mission, man.
I love how they released this like a bonus live track that Waiting for 22. I was like, seriously, of all the things you could pick, you picked the, empty room today. Like where not an actual song, like,
but the Mission, Sweet Sister Mary. I mean, come on. I mean, how the hell is this not number 1?
Yeah, it's God. Aiken, yeah. So why would you keep friends that don't like Queensryche? I know some pretty dumb people, Chris. Like, and I do have to ask a question here. So, wait, Doug McCauley, hair's getting long. You'll be at the oh shit, this was a stupid idea stage soon, John. Yeah, it's getting there. It's not as bad as it was on the last one. Joe Gebhardt says, I've only listened to it once all the way through. You're gonna have to please tell me you're not talking about Operation Mindcrime, Joe. If you got to clarify what record you're mentioning. So, all right, well, we are into the top 2, and we could skip number 2 because it's another Between the Buried and Me record, the Parallax 2 future sequence. We don't know anything about it. We're going to catch a lot of shit from people listening to this, like, but I like Between the Buried and Me. You guys should have talked about it. So let's just skip to number 1, which is obviously at this point, now that everyone listened to Bob spoil the whole show.
Rookie. mistake.
Yeah. What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's obviously Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. Again, a perfect album. But I will say, I don't know if I would put it ahead of Images. I think it's because I think Images is so iconic, and in my mind, I've just built it up as fuck you, Aiken. It says hair looks good. Bob and Brian should be honored to do a show with Ricky Gervais. Look,
Amazing.
man, I fucking dry it with a towel. I comb it back, and however it falls, it falls. I don't give a shit. Okay.
You know what? I should have had like a whole thing of hair jokes written down for this. I didn't know we were going to be going there again.
It's Aiken, of course we are. Yeah, I definitely can understand this being number one, but for me, I don't know. It's so hard to put anything over Images. That having been said, I mean, this is definitely just so ungodly good. I remember the first time I heard this was actually on Aiken's show, the metal show on 92.3 up here in Cleveland, and they played the whole record on their show, like straight through, and I was like, oh my God, is this amazing? Like, and to this day, same thing. So, is this your favorite Dream Theater record, Bob?
100%. Yeah. It's not even close for me. There's a gap. It's this one and then everything else. It's phenomenal. I love it.
That's another reason why I had you on when I saw it was number one. I'm like, well, this is Bob's album.
And I can't explain why. Like, see, I'm a guitar guy, and I feel like Petrucci is at his best at these instrumentals. The Overture 1928 is like, I melt in my chair when I listen to it. It's so good. Like, it's like when I remember I just bought it. Like, I didn't hear it before I bought it, and I put it on, and the talking starts, and then the Overture. Oh, it's so good. Mixing in from Metropolis Part 1 into it. It's so good. And another fun fact, Home, Opeth stole a riff from that and made it one of their famous songs. So definitely
Really
influence there. Yeah.
Okay.
So very cool. But yeah, this is phenomenal. Me and Brian go back and forth on this over the years so many times. This album is phenomenal and will always be my number one, and probably because of just it being there so long, it will never change. Like, nothing will ever come out, and it's just perfect album, like you said.
Brian, your thoughts?
Somebody just texted me, John, that haircut was great when Courtney Cox did it in the Dancing in the Dark Springsteen video. So I think that's a compliment, actually.
Oh dear God.
I'm just gonna say, I said it before. If you're gonna put Queensryche on this list and you're not gonna put Mindcrime number one, I don't know what you're. I love Scenes from Memory, great album. Kind of like you, sketchy on Before Images and Words, maybe a little, but yeah, I don't know how Mindcrime is the number one. I just that kind of baffles my mind, especially when you have whatever the hell that is at number two that we have no idea. Also, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, great album. I know Bob liked this album. This is I think a decent enough. We found some gateway songs on here, right? I mean, who the hell can't get into like Spirit Carries On and Deja Vu and stuff? Great tunes.
Yeah, there's really not much more to say. I mean, if you want to have it at number one, it's kind of hard to argue. It's kind of hard to argue. I could see, though, like you said, an argument being made for Mindcrime being number one, and that being the reason being is without Mindcrime there is no Scenes. So yeah. Well, that was fun. That was lengthy, and Between the Buried and Me got no love whatsoever, so we apologize to all the Between the Buried and Me fans. So hopefully you guys had a good time with that. Hopefully Chris Aiken is reading the banner at the bottom of the screen. I did that specifically for him. And and it is not an untrue story. That is actually a 100% true story. So take that, you bastard. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. This was a blast. Definitely some very questionable choices. For example, Kale wanted to know, since he tuned in late, where was Dream and Day Unite? That was number 52 out of 54, Kale. So it was not, it was one of the bad ones. So, Bob, it was awesome having you on, dude. You will have to come back on sometime. We'll have to maybe even talk some Opeth. Maybe we'll do a deep dive. You tell us what your favorite record is, and we'll deep dive it, and we'll have to dig into some Opeth ourselves. So,
sounds good. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Not a problem, man. So, I will put you in the green room, and we'll talk to you once we go off air here real quick. If you can hold on for a minute. So, Brian, it was another spirited show. Damn, that was
fun.
Yeah, that was a good time, man. There was a lot of questionable placements there, I think. And again, I think the guy, I hate to call him biased, but I think having most of the Between the Buried and Me stuff in the top third, and especially multiple in the top 10, and 3 ahead of Images and Words is basically sacrilege. So, yeah.
Yeah, but again, shout out. What's the guy's name again?
Jordan Bloom.
Well, we should actually like tag him when we do our podcast, so we can listen to what our thoughts are on it. It's all in fun, man. Someone makes a list, and it's up to someone else to go, oh my God,
He might not like that though. He might be like, fuck you guys.
No, I think he'd be fine with that. Dude, we just gave him 2 hours and 15 minutes of promo. I mean, come on.
Yeah, true. So, all right. Well, since we teased it earlier, we decided we're going to finally do this. Our next episode, which is going to be on Thursday, May 16th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to be doing our official Dream Theater album rankings. So we've held this one in our back pocket since basically the inception of the show. So we are going to tell you guys how we would rank each of the 15 Dream Theater albums that have been released so far. So, Brian, this is a bitch. I will warn you right now. And again, as I told you, if you're stuck on them, the best way I found to do it, at least for me, is you take two albums and you go, okay, I have to listen to one record right now. Which one do I want to listen to? You go, oh, this one. And then you bump that one ahead of the previous. And then you do it a couple times and you kind of look at it and eventually you go, yeah, I can live with that. So Kale wants to know, John said it now, are we including the A Change of Seasons EP? I will leave that up to Brian. Do we include Change of Seasons?
I think we have to, I think.
Okay.
Or are you going to say no?
I mean, to me, it's like one song and then a bunch of covers, so I don't know how you can, but yeah, we'll throw it in. So we'll be doing 16 releases then. Unless do they count that as Dream? I don't think they count that as an album. I think they just count it as
I don't know now. Let's talk about that later. I'm kind of leaning towards no now the more you're talking about it.
Okay, here's what we'll do. Have a list with it and without it. So basically put it in there, and then we technically won't count it, but at the end we can say if we were putting A Change of Seasons in, we would have had it at this position.
Okay.
Because I know a bunch of people in the chat are going to want to put it in there. So so that they don't do extra homework, we'll leave it in
this
there.
Is like 3.5, 4+ years now of leading up to finally doing this episode. We've been talking about it and holding off.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, we're actually going to be doing it. So we will be doing all the studio records, and we will do A Change of Seasons, but we will technically leave it out, but we will tell you where we would have put it. And again, that will be in 2 weeks on Thursday, May 16th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thanks to all you guys in the chat. As always, Cale McLeish, Doug McCauley, JG3, Chastity Crawley. Always great to see you guys. Joe Gebhardt, awesome that you could make it in. Chris Aiken, you can go fuck yourself.
or a ham if you could find one.
Yeah, or a ham, exactly, or a ham. Feel free to go slam a ham as it were. So yeah, Marcio, great to see you as always. Pelaya, Giovanni Pelaya. So guys, again, we're gonna be right back here in 2 weeks on Thursday, May 16th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Many thanks to our good friend Mr. Bob Hurd for jumping in. You'll see him again in the future, no doubt. And Brian, another great episode. I will also talk to you in 2 weeks. And guys, to all of you, have an awesome weekend. Have an incredible May the 4th. Star Wars is the best. Go watch as much Star Wars as you can this weekend. Nerd out. I know I will be. And as always, guys, until next time, Carpe Diem.